Hello, Iris.
Hi, Ian, how are you?
Tell us about the Browns, please.
Well, I don't know much about the family close, like the parents and that on either side. Your mother had a business with her mother in Sydney as a sewing wedding gowns and that she had in Market Street. And I met with when we palled up. I sort of got to know her through meeting Keith and Wally. They were mates in the surf club, and that's how. And they used to ride motorbikes. And I was just trying to think of the motorbike that Keith had, the name of it, but I can't
Dad
think
had
of
an
it now.
Indian.
Yes, yeah, one of
Dad had
them
an Indian.
was, yeah, and they had the sidecar on Wally's,
Mm.
and that's how they used to get around. And I went away, I was 20, and I went away to have
Jervis Bay.
Jarvis Bay, yes, and there were guest houses there, and I worked there in the guest houses, and Wally and Keith came down several times of a weekend, and I think actually Keith had an accident on the way back one year. He went to sleep and then on the bike and hit the car or something, or truck. I can't remember what that was, but he ended up no. Oh, he was all right, but he that was a not a very pleasant time. And then when I got round about 20, it was 21 when I was there, because I thought I have to go home for my birthday because my mother won't like it if I'm away for my 21st birthday. So I went home, and then Keith and I sort of got more together, and we never. I used to go to his parents' place in Lochramie Street, and we didn't marry for quite some time, where we had off and on, but we still kept friends with your mum and your dad, and we used to always, after your dad and mum got married, I was their bridesmaid. Bruce was supposed to be, sorry, wrong one. Keith was supposed to be his best man, but he was away at uh, Warren or somewhere up the north coast of New South Wales, coaching football, so he couldn't, and the plane couldn't get up that and come. It was
Yeah.
bad weather,
Oh.
so he couldn't. So then Keith Rousewell, do you remember
Yeah.
him?
Yeah.
Well, he
So
became his.
it rained on the wedding day.
Yeah, it rained and they couldn't get the plane. It was only a light plane, and they couldn't
No,
get.
but didn't it rain on Mum and Dad's wedding day?
Yes,
Pouring it.
yes, it poured on your mother's, and as a matter of fact, my father was working with your father at the powerhouse, and he was at the wedding, and my dad had a thing that he always bought a new hat if he was going somewhere sort of dressed up.
Yeah.
And he bought this new hat to go to the wedding, and when we got the wedding was over at the church, we got back to the surf club, and we had to pull the cars in beside the surf club, and I couldn't go down the prom. It was raining too much, and the best place was for us to get out there and run round to the front door and just go in. So when we were doing it, it was like something on a TV thing, like Wally when Elinor were first, and then Keith and I were second, and your mother had a dress all up round her,
Ah.
and she's running around the corner to the door, and they got in there, and she just dropped the dress and held her head up and looked like as if she was quite nothing was wrong, and she just walked in. No,
Oh,
she was
fantastic.
beautiful. And another little incident, I was a milliner, and I used to work with your mum when she had a wedding on, and I'd do the
You do the
veils
hats.
and
Oh,
things
yeah.
and that.
Oh, veils as well, not just hats. Oh, right.
Yeah, I used to do that. And I remember I got really annoyed with your mother because when I've spent a lot of time making the hat for it and I used to sit on the table and I'd have the net all over the place and sort of doing it. And I put a lot of time in, and I was really pleased with it. It looked lovely. And after the rain and everything, your mother got home to get changed to go, travelling for them to go. And when they got home, she pulled the veil off, screwed it up in a ball, and then threw it up in the top of the wardrobe. And I went, and
You'd spent so much time
I
on it.
went, Elinor! But anyway, that was just something. And I always wanted to in those days, Ian couldn't spend a lot of money, and we didn't have a lot, but we were happy, and everything was a challenge, but we got through it, and we didn't, sort of let it beat us, and we didn't take a lot of photos or have a lot, like anything that was expensive. We couldn't do. So, but I was always wanted to. I didn't get a big photo. That was a photo of me sitting on a chair in the gown that your mum made for me, and it was lovely. And
Mum made you're the bridesmaid. She made your dress.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was a beautiful.
And she made her wedding dress.
She made a wedding dress, yes, and she made all, and the ones that there was only me as bridesmaid. There wasn't any flower girls or anything like that. But weddings were really important, and we used to like it to be just right, sort of for the occasion. But a lot of work went into it, but we managed, and then we just kept in touch, and new kids were born and that. We used to go over and watch the footy, and I remember I used to laugh at your father because he just let you kids just lay on the floor and watch the footy, and that was good. And then one go to sleep, and as soon as one go to sleep, he'd go and pick that one up and take it into the bedroom, put it to bed, and then the next one would go, and he'd just get up. There was never any fuss or anything or arguments. It was easier to do it that way, and I used to laugh and think, oh, Wally there should be in bed, but it didn't matter. You all survived.
But before the wedding, you go on motorbike trips together?
No, it was a few times, like down to surf club carnivals and things like that. And I remember one time I was on the bike, and it was a stinking hot day, and we were going down to the national park to Kira. Sit back in the chair, love. And to Kira, down at the national park.
Yeah.
And to over the boys, Johnny. There was two brothers, and their mother and father used to go to the carnivals with them and drive. And they ended up stopping Keith on the road and getting me off the bike and into the car, and to go the rest of the way because it was so hot. But my mother never liked the motorbikes. She wasn't happy at all about the motorbikes. She was thinking I was going to end up, dead on the road, But they were good. They were fun times. We didn't have a lot, but we made do and enjoyed our life. And Wall and Keith got really mates, and they used to do the surfboards together and skis and that, and when he was into paddling. And then they were into cars, so they were always tinkering with cars, and they worked hard. And did I end up telling you about the hat at the wedding, the rain?
Yeah, you said she chucked it up in the...
Yeah, the hat. Oh, no, that. But my father's hat, the brand new hat, he was out and you know how the surf club faces the water door, the entrance? Well, he was going around, and then his hat went, and it ended up in in the ocean. He wasn't very happy.
It was a strong wind blowing.
Oh, enormous it was. It was a
Oh.
really bad day.
Oh no.
But anyway, that didn't matter. Once we got in there, it was okay. We
Yeah.
had the reception. It was very, normal and nice, and speeches and everything.
So where did you grow up?
In Maroubra.
In Maroubra.
Yeah, in Maroubra actually.
Maroubra.
That's where we first moved to Maroubra from Leichhardt and Dale when I was only 8 or so, I suppose, and we went there and lived right on Maroubra Road, right through the shopping entrance down, and we lived there till I was about 12, and then we moved to Maroubra over to Payne Street.
Maroubra.
Maroubra we lived in first.
Oh, then you moved to Maroubra.
Pardon?
You moved to Maroubra or Maroubra?
Moved to Maroubra, and then we moved to Maroubra,
Oh.
to Payne Street.
I remember the house up on top of the hill.
That was we moved when Keith and I got our first house.
Right.
Keith's mum passed away, and the house was the family home was divided between him and his sister. But we were then.
So that house up here, he grew up in that house.
No, down in Payne Street, down in the junction.
All right.
But we bought this house. The only reason we ended up getting the house, we were looking for a house. We were living with Mum and Dad, and we were looking for something, and his mum passed away, and then after that he did a big rescue out of Malabar.
Yeah.
Boat smashed up on the rocks.
Oh.
And he did a big rescue, and we were walking up the junction, and the bank manager came out of and spoke to Keith, like we just came out of the door, and we were walking up into the junction to do something, and he said, "Oh, that was a nice job you did, Keith, the other day, the weekend." And it was funny, and when he was beach inspector, and we used to ask him every weekend. I'd be at his mum's place, and when they'd come home, we'd ask him and say, "Well, what did you do today? Do you save anybody?" And he'd say, "Oh yeah, pulled a couple of kids in," or nothing. He wouldn't sort of make a big deal out of what it was. And this day we made a pact at home, the family. We said, "All right, when he comes in, we will not ask him what he's done today, and we won't do it." So we did. This day they had this boat smashed up on the rocks. There were fishermen in it, and they came down in the paddy wagon to get some boys from the club, and they got Keith and Lenny Haskins and another couple of younger boys that I can't remember their names.
There was no surf club at Malabar.
Pardon?
There was no surf club at Malabar.
Oh yeah, the surf club was there.
Oh, but there's no one there to save anyone.
It was off the south end.
There were, they were no, at Malabar they weren't. So the police came down, picked them up in the paddy wagon, and took the boys out there. Anyway, the boat smashed up on the rocks, and the fishermen were in the drink, and Lenny and the other boys and Keith got in, and they got them, and they were sort of trying to keep them calm and that, and they said when he got home from work that night, we said, nobody asked him what he did, and he was getting frustrated, and he said, "All right, isn't anybody going to ask me what happened today?" So he said, but finally they were very touchy whether they were going to get out, but they ended up there used to be a ferry that used to go across to Kurnell from Malabar, and they got that to come around and picked them up in there. But Keith said to Lenny, "Oh, I don't know whether we're going to get out of this." And Lenny said, New Zealand's just over there, we'll get there." And that was a big thing we was talking about. And anyway, he finally did. We said, and this is what, that happened.
But then you talk about the bank manager coming out.
Oh yes, well he came out after this happened, and he said, "Oh, where are you living now, Keith?" And he said, "Oh, we live with my mother-in-law and the father-in-law at the moment." And he said, "I've been looking for a house, but I can't get a loan." And he said, "Come and see me next week." And that's how we got our loan to move to Bell Street.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's how we got that. Yeah.
Mum was at Kensington.
Yes, she was. Yes. Getting back to the rain, we had beach umbrellas to get from the house to the car, and it was, yeah. But it was good. We had good days. And he worked hard, like your father worked hard at work so that he could provide for you kids, and he was a bit of a hothead at times. He and Keith used to have a bit of arguments, not arguments, but discussions about things. Like he came up here one year after we built the house up the top there, and he was painting with Keith, and they were having a discussion or something. Anyway, it got a bit out of hand, and your father just spat the dummy and got the car and left. and I was really worried, and I said, "Okay, go and find him." I said, "You have to go and find him. Where's he gone?" "He'll come back," he said. "He'll come back when he's ready." And then he did too, but that was sort of, but they were good mates. And they worked on their cars and the boards and spent a lot of time together.
So with the millinery and the wedding dresses, that came after you met Mum?
Yes, yeah. Oh yeah, after we'd been friends for a long time, and when we she asked me to be bridesmaid, and I said, "Oh yes, of course I will." So there was never any arguments or anything. Your mother was a pretty placid woman. She put up with all this. She managed very well. She got on with what she was doing, and I think they sold the business eventually. And I can't remember when her mum, like how long they were around. I never had a lot to do with her, but I didn't know the details of the family, the growing up, and that. But, Ian, it's a different world to what it was then. Things were personal, and you didn't ask questions. It was just not the thing to do, if you got to sort of know about it and they wanted to tell you about it, well, it was fine, but you didn't pry. It was more respect.
Auntie Pearl didn't want him to get married because Dad was too dark. Did you know that?
What was that?
Auntie Pearl.
Oh yeah.
Didn't want Mum and Dad to get married because Dad was too dark.
Oh yes. Now I never ever knew what a nationality was.
West Indian.
West Indian, was it?
Cuba, Havana.
Have you done
yeah.
That's good.
So great-grandfather, Prince Alfred Brown, came in the 1880s to the Rocks. And he married an Irish lady. So Granddad is half caste, half West Indian and half Irish. And then Granddad married Annie O'Brien, who's Irish.
Yeah.
So Dad's quarter. And then he married Elinor, who's Scottish.
Yes.
So I'm 1/8. That's where it came from, West Indies. That's where the dark skin came from.
Oh, I never
But they didn't want her to marry him because he was too dark.
Yeah.
Did you know that at all?
No, I didn't know that. No, that never worried me. I knew there must have been something. I think I said to the kids at one time, maybe it's Aboriginal, because now there's so many Aboriginals have got that much in, and they get all sorts of things. Yeah.
Do you remember Guy Oakley?
Yes, I remember.
Well, he said his first surfboard he got it off Dad, and him and Keith made the surfboards.
Yeah.
In the pavilion.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, because Keith used to do the boards at home, and his mother was very close to Keith. She thought her son was he was too wonderful. But he was allowed to do anything, and he would make boards, and he'd be doing it in the lounge room, and he'd have it all on the deck thing, and with his trade, he was a fitter and turner by trade. I don't know whether your father ever did any...
It was glass blowing.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, he was. I remember that, yes.
But it was no good for his health.
Yeah.
Then he got a job at the powerhouse.
Yeah.
Do you know he was dyslexic?
No. No, I didn't know.
He couldn't write a letter or something.
Yeah, yeah.
The jumbled letters.
Yeah.
You get them letters around.
Well, he covered that very well. Keith might have known Dolan, but I didn't. But Keith would be doing the board, and he'd have it on the trunks, the things, or...
Yeah, stands. Up on the stands, yeah.
Yeah, and he stands, yeah.
In his mother's lounge room.
In the lounge room. And
at his mother's house.
He'd be looking along at the side of it, and Mum would be sitting there, look with him, like sort of being company, and he'd say, that's out up there, a thou or something. And she'd say to him, Blind Freddie, you'd be glad to see it. So that's always been a saying with us, if anything's gone wrong, Blind Freddie'd be glad to see it. Things like that. There's not that anymore. You don't.
Do you remember Ronnie Siddons?
Yes.
That's how Dad got in the surf club.
How Dad went to surf club, yeah?
Ron Siddons lived out near Bonnie Doon and said Dad should come to the surf club.
Oh, well, he was one of the beach inspectors too, and he was the one that when Vicky was only. We moved down to the beach when she was just about over 2, and she was still a toddler, and we built the thing on the top of the surf club, top of the dressing sheds, and that's where we went at for then. And when she was born, skin was so white and that, and they said to me, "You're not going to take her down the beach," and I said, "What am I going to do with it? Put her in a glass case?" I said, "She's got to live." But she never, she did all right. But I'm going to drift off now in 1 minute. She did all right. She used to be okay. She didn't get sort of burnt to a frazzle or anything, because she was this.
You remember the Lenal balm? Lenal balm on your nose? Keith used to get it, I think.
Yeah, the Lenal balm. Oh, the kids hated that. Not that, Dad. Don't. No, it stinks. Yeah, and if that's what thing about our time down there, Ian, I think if you were all one of the family sort of thing.
Yeah.
And if one got into trouble, you all got it, Like he'd say, he'd get the song on the back side. And he used to say, pat on the back, low enough, often enough, does wonders.
Did you go to a place in Wilson Street, Banks Meadow? Did you ever go there much? Where we lived.
I haven't been down for years.
No. Did you go there when you were younger?
Oh yeah, the one where in first family home.
Yeah.
And then your dad and mum moved where
Gary
had the other house. Are they all right?
Yeah.
Gary and Deb and... Yeah.
They've got 6 houses now.
Have they?
Yeah.
I thought they might still have... They still got the unit at... at
Hastings.
Hastings Street?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, I always worried me, Ian, that when the COVID was on and that I think we got misled with what was happening. Like when Debbie sent the things up for me, it wasn't that to leave them at the gate. She meant that she would meet you at the gate.
Oh.
And you get them, you know, because you were upset that they were going to be left at the gate.
Right.
But it was just cross sort of thing.
Okay.
It just I did get in touch with Debbie and said that, you know, like what happened, and she said, no, it's fine, don't worry about it. That was all right. I was worried about was then it was going to be safe, you know, but she said they were locked up but in the unit. So I said, oh, well, that's okay. But it was just a misunderstanding. But we had good times. I think, you know, like as I can't sort of know anything more than what you do, you know, but you found out anyway.
They got married a lot earlier than you, is that right?
Yes, oh yeah. Yeah, I know. I had many off and on time,
okay.
You know. And yes, because we didn't get married till I was 29. Because when I was married for 3 years, when I hadn't fallen pregnant, and then 3 years I decided to go back to work, and I went back to work and bingo. So that was good. That was Wendy, and
but she's younger than me.
Yeah.
And Gary's a lot older than me, so that's like 8 or 10 years after Gary was born.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah. But your father was a good provider, and he worked hard, and they never seemed to have any problems.
He used to paint the pavilion.
Pardon?
Dad painted the pavilion.
Dad?
In his holidays.
Oh, he was painting, you know, he
painted the whole outside. All the yellow right around.
I didn't get that.
Also, Dad used to paint the pavilion when he was young.
Yeah, paint
the whole outside.
Whole.
All around, you know, all the yellow.
Yes, yeah.
In his holidays.
Yeah.
When he had his yearly holidays, he'd
and then you remember they used to do that? They had the Fiats. Do you remember the
Had about 4 or 5 Fiats. Yeah.
And then we had the minis. We had minis.
Oh, you had minis? No, Dad had the Fiats.
Yeah. And your sister Heather had
John had one. Mum had. Harry had one.
Yeah. And one time the mini got pinched from the car park behind us. You know.
You had a mini? Or?
We had a mini, yeah. Oh. We had several minis. They ended up here when the kids got their licence and that. They ended up, we had our fleet. Keith had a little wagon and it was bright yellow. Wendy's was blue and Vicky's was orange, bright orange.
All had a mini.
Yeah, all had a mini. We had them, yeah. But one mini got pinched. I used to say that when the boys got hurt, I'd go up to I had a white mini, and I'd take them up the hospital at Randwick and take them in, and a doctor, a friend of ours, I said, what do I use on it, Fred, when they've got a cut in the head, you know, on that, and he said, use a women's sanitary pad and plonk that on, you know, Modest at that time. And I'd say, all right, so I'd take them up to the Randwick Hospital and I'd take them into casualty, and the girls would say, oh, you're going to wait for him, or are you going to the nurses, wait for him or what? I said, no, it doesn't belong to me. I said, I've rang his mother. She'll be up to pick him up. But, you know, when they hit the board, it hit him and they opened up a cut or something, you know. So the nurses will probably look every time they unwrapped it. They probably thought, oh, that's a good idea. The boys wouldn't have known what it was. No. But, yeah.
How long was Keith on the beach inspector?
Keith?
As a beach inspector?
Yeah.
How long was he doing that?
Oh, years. Well, we were working in the shed. I was working in the shed 14 years.
All right.
And that's what I said. At least the kids were coming home to me. You know, they weren't latchcock keys. We say, I'd see them walking across the car park, you know, from school.
Yeah.
And I'd say to Vicky every year, the first back at school, she'd come and she'd be walking over barefooted, and I'd say, where's your shoes? In my bag. They hurt. So, you know, different things like that. And that's what the kids, like all of their friends that Wendy and Vicky are still friends with, school friends. You know, one lives at Toowoomba, friend of Vic's. Charlotte, she was bridesmaid for her. And Wendy's different ones that left at the Central Coast, and they still contact each other. Actually, one of Wendy's friends went to England to live, Julie and Len, and they were there for 38 years, and they ended up, 2 years ago, they decided to come back. They had family here too, but they had reared their family, 2 children, the girl and the boy over there, and they came back here only then. And they found it a little bit difficult, I think, at times, but they had about 3 houses in about 2 years to find where they wanted to go, you know.
What about when Dennis Green and Dad went to the Olympics?
Oh, yeah. Well, I can't remember much about that, but as he went, you know, he went down. Has he got any photos and literature and that of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when Keith went down to Melbourne, and
to watch it, he was there.
Yeah, to watch him, and to sneak him into at those days, they sneaked him into their quarters, their living sort of area.
Oh, Dad snuck Keith in there.
Yeah, Keith in, yeah,
right.
So that they could stay there. He went down and saw him. And it's funny how things happen. Like, your father and Keith always into cars, as I said. Well, the Mini, I was going to say, I always said I should put a red cross on the Mini when I take him up the ambulance. And the girls used to go to gym at the juniors every Saturday. And if I was busy and I couldn't get away, Keith would pick one of the boys that had a licence. Will you take the Mini and go and pick up the girls? They'll be waiting outside the juniors for you. And they used to wait on the side, and they'd look up the hill where they'd come down, and they'd say, wonder who's picked us up today. I said I would be in trouble probably with the welfare, because I would just have somebody come and pick them up, but they'd say, oh, well, somebody pick us up, we'll wait here. Mum's busy, you know. Yeah.
Just get back on track to Uncle Wally, Mum.
Oh, yes, right. All right.
That's what we're talking about, yeah.
Okay, well, what else would you like to know?
He
knows more about it than me.
Any recollections you have?
His relationship?
No, when you, like, on the motorbikes, you used to go out in the bush and stuff. You got the photo, you were somewhere out in the bush with the motorbikes.
Bush with the motorbikes? Well, that could have been when we were down at, going down to the carnivals.
Oh,
you know,
right.
That could be there like that. But,
So Keith wasn't into canoeing in the surf skis? What did he do? Swimming? Was he?
Oh, yeah. Keith was swimming.
More into the swimming.
Oh,
was he doing the paddling too?
Yeah, he was surfboards, mainly
Surfboards.
just paddle.
Paddle and surfboard.
Different times when he used to do rescues and that. I remember Johnny Rogers.
Oh yeah, Johnny Rogers, yeah.
And Johnny and he saved a couple of people in a big sea off North Maroubra, and they couldn't get in, so they paddled them on the board around to Coogee
oh, wow.
to get them, to get them in, which they did. But that's getting back to that. Hundreds he could saved. Being the beach inspector, it was for us to be living there. It was a godsend for the council because he was on duty
all the time.
All the time. We would be sitting upstairs having tea, and the glass windows were all along the thing there, and he would be sitting having his tea, and he'd say, "Be night, like it'd be just dusk."
Yeah.
And he'd look out the window and he'd say, "Gotta go," and he'd down the stairs and dragging his,
somebody
and pull somebody out. I never had a inkling of what a number it was, but it was thousands that he saved.
Do you remember when Dad saved Des Renford and Tom? Simmons? You remember that at Ballina?
Yeah.
Dad had to save Des.
Yeah.
Des was drowning. Des Renford got sucked out in the rip, and Dad had to swim out with the two.
And pick him up. Yeah. Yeah, well, Keith used to be in the belt, always on, if they were doing the life thing and that, he was always in the belt. But, yeah, it was good times. And Roddy Siddons came, so getting down to say, I had to get off, I'm sorry I ramble.
You're right.
But he gave us King, our dog. Do you remember the shepherd?
Yeah.
Because it was lost on the beach, and he said, Iris, will you take him? And I said, look, I didn't have any. I had dogs when I was young, but I never had a shepherd, and I didn't know how he'd be. And I said, but the first thing, if he does anything wrong with the girls, like the first thing, I said, he's got to go, because he had a big Afghan dog. And she ran along the beach with him one day and fell in the hole and broke a leg. And he had her, and he said, I don't like, and he was sick. King was sick. He wasn't real good. And we came to the conclusion that he must have had training, police or army, or has some sort of training, because he hated the sirens when the shark alarm would go. And he didn't like guns. He didn't like my brother.
Fire range was it?
My brother came in to me one time, and I was standing at the counter, and this was even before our shop was there. This was just when there was surf, when they were just the surf lifesavers were there, and he'd been to an RSL march and thing, and he was half pissed. And he was stood at the counter, and he had a marking
gun.
Starter gun. And he was saying to me, all right, I'm come to stick you up today, this.
Hold you up.
And King just absolutely flew at him, put his paws over his back and up on his head, and he wasn't frightened of him, so he turned around and said, I'm not going to hurt her, he was protecting us. And he was like, what's happening,
He was trained to do that.
He was a wonderful dog.
I remember Ronnie would boast that he got Dad down to the surf club, and then Dad was Australian champion, then Dad was Olympic champion. Like, Ronnie felt very proud that
he did that, Yeah, he was good.
Because he used to get the golf balls out of the Bonnie Doon lakes.
Yeah.
Dad did. with Ronnie, they both used to go and sell the golf balls, and then they'd get out. And Ronnie said, "Why don't you come down to the surf club?"
Oh.
That's how he got into it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
And then Ronnie used to do the car park, get the money for the car park.
And his dad to do Old City. There was Old City used to do it years ago. Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy down there now.
It's
so busy down there now.
Oh, it's like that here though now, Ian.
Yeah.
We go out now and I change. I say, like I don't go into town that often now. I'm not good on my pins. And when they take me to the doctor, they take me for little jaunts all round Hastings Street and up to down to Mossman Court where we used to live, and then the first time our doctor changed from over at Noosaville to Sunshine Beach Road, just right where you come in, it's that busy now.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess we used to stay at the Banksias Caravan Park there years ago, right there.
Before you had a place? Before you owned the land?
Yeah.
You'd come up for holidays?
Yeah. And I come back, I sit in the chair there and I thought, I'm just so bewildered because I kept saying, that's where so-and-so was. That's where so-and-so. And how long's that been there, Oh, no, it's just so busy. Not like it used to be. I remember years ago when we came back one year and we met at the junction, a chap that used to do our refrigeration, or Bruce Keith was talking to him, and
Marn, what's his name? Marn? His surname? Marn, Mahony.
Yeah.
I know his son, footy, Jeff Marn.
Oh, and he used to look after the fridges, all that, know. And he was saying to Keith, "Oh, you just come back from the beautiful place." And Wendy was only toddler or old enough to understand, but 8, 9. And she said, yes, you better see it before she couldn't get round development. Development it. She said, you should see it. And I said, now, God. Well, I don't know if you remember. If I'm wafting off, just tell me, love.
No.
Betty Roberts, Billy Wallace surfboards. Well, she was here. She moved up here, lived at Hastings Street before we moved up.
Right.
They did. And she was Betty Burgers.
Oh, yeah.
So when we came up, she couldn't get people to work. And,
you worked there?
Yeah. And I worked there, and I said to Betty, I said, look, I didn't come up here to make burgers. I made enough burgers at home, Anyway, we got really pally, so when she was a bit slack sometimes I'd go in and help her. And I remember saying to her one morning, I bet I'm late. I'm sorry I'm late. I got caught in traffic today. And she went, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And now I look up and I say, Betty, if you're looking down, you get caught in traffic today. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's been lots of change.
Thank you, Iris.
You're welcome.